Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Music with Todd Ledbetter, and today we have a new show being introduced. It's ranking the albums, and today we're going to be ranking the discography of Supertramp. And I'm going to mostly just rank the studio albums. I'm not going to be ranking the live albums or a collection of albums, but or a collection of songs on albums because they Supertramp has that. And but I will just take a quick peek at what we got here because they have this album here, Paris, which was their live album that was released in 1980. You know, it's just got a lot of their songs on it, all done live at the Pavilion de Paris. And so there's that one, which, you know, it's a great album. A lot of familiar songs on there, and also their retrospective album too, which is not a live album. And it's got a couple, these first early songs, I'm not really sure. They have, I was reading a little bit about uh, Supertramp and Wikipedia, and they have some early albums that they released that aren't really available. They didn't really sell much at all. Um, so we're not going to really be talking about those albums, but we will be talking about albums like Free as a Bird, which happens to be my least favorite album of theirs. Uh, I am a fan. I'm a fan of Supertramp for a long time. I don't remember if I became a fan with Breakfast in America or if I started earlier. I can't remember which came first. If I got that album and then I started digging into their back catalog and I found out where the real jewels were. Um, but for some reason, it's so long ago, I can't remember exactly what order. Not a real fan of this album. It's just kind of it doesn't have Roger Hodgson's on it. He's long gone from the band at this point, and he's doing his own solo work and taking time off to raise his family and whatnot. Um, just not the Supertramp that I'm used to, and it's it's uh, it's pleasant enough to listen to, but it just doesn't have that Supertramp feel, and definitely not any kind of prog whatsoever. Um, so that's my least favorite album. My next least favorite album, once again, sans Roger Hodgson's, is Brother Where You Bound. Still not a great album. I remember when it came out and I was so excited for a new Supertramp. The only thing on it was Cannonball, which I didn't like at the time. You know, I listen to it now. It's okay compared to what came, compared to the rest of the album and what came after. And then also, uh, I think that's pretty much about it, really. Um, on this album, not a great album, in my opinion. Uh, I wouldn't listen to it again. I've listened to all these albums in recent over the last few days just to try to kind of wrap my mind around how I wanted to rank them. And it's pretty much how I felt about how I felt about them. I probably didn't need to listen to them all again, but it was interesting to kind of listen to them with a different ear to sort of make some kind of a list, you know. So they have 7 albums that I'm doing here, not including their the 2 that we talked about earlier, their live album and their collection of song album, sort of greatest hits, if you will. Um, so the next album out of the 7 would be number 5, um, which came just before. It's kind of just kind of going down as they got worse as they made more albums. It seemed like it. They're not in complete order. There is one change up, but famous last words is pretty much famous last words. I think Roger Hodgson sort of nailed it on the head there. Um, this was his last effort with the band in 1982. This is the year I graduated high school, if anybody cared. Uh, so crazy. uh, was an okay song. Liked it all right. It's okay. And then its other hit was "It's Raining Again," which I really didn't care for. Um, that was, I think, a Rick Davies song, and then "Crazy" was Roger Hodgson's. But it's okay. It's okay of an album. It's not great. Not my favorite. Um, they they kind of started off, in I think a lot of people would say the progressive vein of rock and roll. You could say that, and then they um, kind of got poppy in a way, but still a little bit of that edge, and interesting enough musically to sort of keep some of the progressive fans interested a little bit. I mean, I'm sure they lost quite a few, but and then they just almost got loungy in a way. It just didn't really like it. So Family's Last Words, sort of apropos for that album, aptly named, I should say. Okay, so uh, let's see. Are we going to get into any good stuff yet? So there's your Paris. And then my next album is Even in the Quietest Moments. So this is 1977. This is where they started to get a little bit poppy. They had their big hit with Give a Little Bit. Um, I was into them by now, already into Supertramp, and I obviously had Breakfast of America already by now. Um, but but before I had Breakfast for America, I remember hearing Give a Little Bit on the radio. It was quite a big hit, and for the life of me, I thought it was Peter Frampton when I was a kid. 1977. I was pretty young. I was like 12 or something like that, 13 maybe. And oh man, and so then when I got into them and I started buying their back catalog, and I put this album on, and this song came on, you could believe my shock. I couldn't believe my shock, but you could believe how shocked I was when it was Give a Little Bit and it wasn't Peter Frampton. I was searching for this song on Peter Frampton's album. I had Comes Alive, and uh, um, I could not figure it out. Couldn't figure it out for the life of me. Well, there's a good reason for that. Pretty good album though. I like this album. Um, Give a Little Bit is sort of their poppy song. Nothing else really sounds like that. Loverboy is a great album, even in the quietest moments. Downstream. I don't know how to say that. Bahaji. From Now On and Fool's Overture. They're all great songs. Good album. I like it a lot. I think I'm gonna make a T-shirt that says "I like it a lot." You can find that on my Teespring, by the way. So I haven't made it yet, but I will. I'll put it up there today. I'll try to. Uh, so even in the quietest moments, good album. Definitely a fan of that album. Now my favorite is number 4 out of 7. So we'll continue on. Then, of course, we have what everybody knows, and that would be Breakfast in America, which is basically one album full of hits. Even the ones that weren't radio songs, everybody knows. I mean, Gone Hollywood, The Logical Song, Goodbye Stranger, Breakfast in America. This is 1979 now, so this is the end of the 70s. Oh, Darling, Take the Long Way Home, Lord Is It Mine, Just Another Nervous Wreck, Casual Conversation, and Child Division. I love that song, Child Division. Really good album, but definitely a little more mainstream, I would say. I wouldn't say completely poppy, although, I mean, The Logical Song and Goodbye Stranger, even Breakfast in America, definitely, pop hits, I would say. Um, but still, you have that familiar sound and instrumentation and quality of music, with the sax player and Roger and Rick playing. One thing I like about their playing is when they're both playing piano and you have headphones on, you can really hear the interplay between them when they're both on piano. Although Roger does play guitar too. Um, and but it's a very interesting sort of dynamic in their music, and you sort of lose that once Roger's gone. You lose that dynamic. Not only that, that interesting. They both have unusual voices, don't they? I mean, they really do. They have unusual voices, but together they sure do mesh well. They really complement each other. Um, I even heard recently that when Yes was uh, looking for a singer, when John at one point when John Anderson left, they actually asked Roger to join as the lead singer of Yes, and he declined. But wouldn't that be interesting? Uh, kind of a That would have been a very interesting development in the saga of Yes. All right, so that was number 3, Breakfast in America. Definitely a good album. I sure liked it when it came out. And I listened to it again, and it's a great album, but I'm not going to go back to it because, boy, those songs are played. It's pretty overplayed. Played album. Well, for us around my age, definitely you've heard these songs for years. Okay, so now we're gonna go to number 2, Crisis What Crisis, great album. Now definitely still in their proggy sort of element. You got a lot of the interplay, the real creative songwriting, Easy Does It, Sister Moonshine, Ain't Nobody But Me, a soapbox opera, Another Man's Woman, Lady, Poor Boy, Just a Normal Day, The Meaning, and Two of Us. Very good song. I mean, I could listen to this album probably every day, forever, no problem, and find something enjoyable about it, or something new, I should say, about it, just in the instrumentation and the lyrically. Um, because they had this guy Palmer helping out lyrically, and he helped out with like King Crimson and wrote songs like that. He's a very highly credited. He's got over like 500 song credits to his portfolio. And I think too that was what made Supertramp interesting too, is in these early albums was lyrically, because later on lyrically, especially with like Brother Where You Bound, and Free as a Bird. It, the Rick Davies songs are just, they're mostly about relationships, and just not interesting at all. Just not interesting um, to me lyrically. So this Palmer guy, very instrumental in the early albums of the Supertramp. And so that leads us to my number 1, which is I don't know, probably in 50% of the cases, I'd say if you're a fan of Supertramp, 50% think this is their number 1, and then the other 50 that don't know about these songs think Breakfast in America is number 1 by far. Not their first album, I guess. The first one that is available, I was reading that, like I said earlier, about a couple of other albums they had, and they had different members, and trying to get something worked up and get going back in the late 60s and early 70s, and finally were able to come up with Crime of the Century once they had Roger Hodgson's in the band. So it really made a huge difference in um, also well, let's just go through the song list here. School, Bloody Well Right, both two great songs. Hide in Your Shell, Asylum, Dreamer, Rudy, If Everyone Was Listening, and Crime of the Century. It's just really a perfect album, and it's so magical and interesting to listen to, especially just as a listening session, and if you have headphones on. It's done very well. I believe that one was remastered as well, so it's even a little better quality. Um, uh, for the remastering, so that's cool. Um, Also, one of the things I really like about Supertramp is the bass player on these early albums, uh, Thompson. Uh, Dougie was in the band from 72 to 88, and his bass playing is just absolutely out of this world. Um, which brings me to also their production style too was far superior in my mind in the early albums. And after they got past Breakfast in America, in my mind, they started getting that sort of 80s gated drum sound, and the bass just didn't have that same after Breakfast in America, it didn't have that same quality to me. And also the drummer Bob Siebenberg, what a fabulous, fabulous drummer he is. Especially on these early albums, he is amazing. And just as an interesting note, his son also became part of the band. Jesse Siebenberg. He did vocals and guitar and percussion, and he was part of the band in '97 to 2002. Then again, he was back in from 2010 to 2011, and then 2015. And then it says playing keyboards, and it says 2010 till present. So I'm not really sure what his role is. Why he's the only person in here that says present, a present member of the band. I don't know if he's got all the rights to the band or not. But Jesse is if you don't know who he is, he's an amazing musician. I actually have seen him perform over the last 30 years many times locally where I live with different people. And he plays everything to perfection. He's a drummer. I saw him first as a drummer playing with a local guy. Um, and then I saw him play guitar, and I was like, whoa, wow, really good. And then he has a baritone guitar, and then he is an amazing, amazing lap steel, pedal steel player. And a lot of the recordings that I've done, if you go back and you listen to my Shane Alexander interview, he's actually he records and plays and performs with Shane as with that's one person. Um, and you can hear him playing the steel guitar and the pedal steel, I should say. And um, he's also performed with Lissy. And right now, I think he's also uh, Promise of the Real with Lucas Nelson, and Promise of the Real also hit the band. He's a major part of that band. He also plays with Neil Young. I mean, so Jesse is quite the musician, and his father Bob is an amazing drummer. And I've seen him play locally here too, in a little listening room that I performed at a lot. And I got the chance to see Bob perform with Jesse. Can't exactly remember who was being featured, and they were kind of backing him up. It's always Jesse's always backing people up. He's just giving them uh, a, a lot of guidance, and that's probably what he did with Supertramp in the later years. Even though I didn't like it, all I can think to myself is, what would those crappy albums be like if Jesse wasn't involved? Because he probably pulled them out of the freaking gutter to make them what they were, because they're really not good albums in my opinion. Certainly not Supertramp. And when you listen to Jesse's work with other people, it's amazing. He's an incredible musician. And so I just have to think that he might have just saved those albums to make them what they were, because they might not have been anything without him. That's my opinion on that, but I don't really know. So that's my list. Supertramp ranking of the albums. The winner is Crime of the Century, for sure, by far. We got Crisis What Crisis number 2, Breakfast in America number 3, Even in the Quietest Moments number 4. And then those are the only 4 I really recommend listening to, unless you're just kind of curious. For for your, I mean, the other ones are okay. They're easy to listen to. they're fine to listen to, like in the background, if you're in an elevator and you're going up like a million stories and you got nothing else to do, you're just going up in an elevator for the rest of your life, that'd be all right. But not something I want to listen to stretch my mind and my imagination, really, unfortunately. Uh, Famous Last Words was number 5. Brother, Where You Bound, number 6, and Free as a Bird, number 7. Uh, so those last 3, just kind of not that great. I mentioned that before, I think. Okay, well, one more cool thing. I'm putting together I have my Patreon. So if you guys are interested in my Patreon, you can go over there and you can see some of the interviews that I've done, including my interview with Shane Alexander. And we do mention Jesse Siebenberg in that interview. And we play a song of his as well that you can hear Jesse play along with one of Shane's songs. Very, very cool. But I'm going to do an album review of Crime of the Century over there on Patreon. So if you're interested in helping me with this channel and kind of improve it, and you can go down in the description. I know I talk about this a lot, but that's kind of where everything happens to keep this thing rolling. I've got my coffee brand, Life Boost Coffee. You can get a deep discount on your first order. Use my promo code Todd30. I've got Venmo and PayPal if you want to just make a donation. I've got Teesprings, and I've got t-shirts there and coffee mugs. And I think I'm going to make a shirt tonight that says I like it a lot, because I say that a lot about the music I like. So a little catchphrase maybe. And it's sort of a positive message, isn't it? I like it a lot. So I'm going to be doing that Supertramp over on Patreon. So check that out. And then subscribe, share, click the notification bell. All those things. Sharing is super important. Sharing is super important. And make a comment. Let me know what you think of these albums, and if you would twist the order around any. I would almost think that 95% of the people that are Supertramp fans would probably pretty much agree with me, but I'd be interested to find out if there's any dissension in the ranks here. You might put Free as a Bird in front of Brother, Where You Bound, possibly. Who knows? Or you could put Even in the Quietest Moments in front of Breakfast in America. That's fine. It just had so many hits on it, and it was it was of course, Give a Little Bit was sort of my first introduction, I think, to Supertramp, and then Breakfast in America, then I went backwards, like I explained. But anyways, let me know what you think. I appreciate you guys watching. I kind of drug the sending on a little too long, so I want to thank you so much, and we will see you next time. Check out my Patreon. Go over there and check it out, and check out my album review of Supertramp's Crime of the Century. All right, bye. Thank you, guys.